Senator Booker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I know how hard a lot of the folks work and how you share a lot of the frustrations that you're hearing right now. I obviously have the same experience with a lot of constituent calls and just not even understanding often how the wait times are. The earliest appointments often someone can schedule come from different states. It is a bit of a maze, and I'm hoping that the passion that you're hearing from a lot of the senators now could help us to lead to some solutions. And I'm wondering maybe constructively to see about staffing vacancies in general, and to what extent are staffing vacancies at high demand posts like in Pakistan, Nigeria, and Haiti delaying appointments for immigrant visa applicants in regards to those countries, which we get a lot of calls, I'm sure Senator Menendez and I both, in our state of New Jersey.
Right, I appreciate that question. I'll talk a little bit about staffing, and I'll talk just in general about our immigrant visa.
Yeah, and I'm just going to put, while you're talking about vacancies, just in the same vein, does Consular Affairs have an acute staffing shortages in posts that adjudicate high volumes of work-study applicants? So that's another area. And then something my office hears a bit about is, do you have a view that there are, well, I'll stick with those staffing vacancy questions first.
Okay, great, thank you. And we're talking specifically about immigrant visas, so let me just mention, you've mentioned our highest, some of our very high volume posts in that respect. So we do have staffing, we have not yet, let me put it this way, the department has not yet filled all of the vacancies that were frozen. We froze positions during the pandemic when our revenue went down. Thanks to appropriations, we didn't have to fire people, but we did have to freeze positions. We were able to begin hiring again, again thanks to expanded spending authorities, which we hope to make permanent. We were able to begin hiring again in about, I think it was January of, I don't quite remember, but I think it was January 21 was the first, January 22 rather, was the first class of people we were able to bring back in. So it takes time to hire and train these folks to go out overseas. And so we do still have staffing gaps in some of our positions, especially at some of the higher volume posts, because they have the most number of positions that were frozen. But the department expects to be able to fill those positions by the end of this fiscal year. That said, you will see in our ops plan and our request for appropriations, we're seeking to hire even more people to be able to address what we absolutely believe is going to be a
I appreciate that. I've got a really rough chairman here. He's tough on me, so I want to get some more questions in before he cuts me off. We know that the call for the immediate release of Evan Gershkovich, despite concerns that Russian government is using him and other high-profile cases to gain political leverage. What role has Consular Affairs played in this case of Mr. Gershkovich? How does Consular Affairs Hostage Affairs Unit coordinate with the State Department in cases like these? And is the State Department considering any policy changes for the wrongfully detained determinations and reassignment of these cases to the Office of the Special President Envoy for Hostage Affairs?
Thank you for that. I'm going to just quickly brag about immigrant visa. We have reduced the backlog of cases by 24% this year, and the productivity in immigrant visas is 20% where it was pre-pandemic. So we're moving through that, and I appreciate your raising it because we know that immigrant visa and family reunification is a huge priority for Congress. So moving on to wrongful detention. We work really closely. First of all, many, many thanks to Congress, and in particular, this committee and the staff of this committee for the Levinson Act, which is an enormously powerful tool in our toolkit in terms of identifying and figuring out what we can do to assist American citizens who may be wrongfully detained overseas. We work in lockstep with our colleagues in the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs Office to implement the Levinson Act. And we work with them closely to make sure that we are implementing the act in the way that it was intended. One thing I will highlight with respect to the Bureau of Consular Affairs, we care about all detainees. There are 1,700 plus American citizens detained overseas, and our job is to make sure that we advocate for them for the best possible treatment, that we advocate for for humanitarian treatment.
That I'm grateful for, and I know a lot about. But I'm wondering about the specific idea of reassigning the cases to the Office of Special Presidential Envoy.
Right. When somebody is determined to be wrongfully detained, the leadership of the case moves to the SPIHA office, we call it. But the actual day-to-day visiting, the actual day-to-day face of the department for that wrongful detainee will be a consular officer at a post overseas.
Okay, and just real quick, what steps has the State Department taken in response to a criticism I hear a lot that families of U.S. citizens detained abroad receive insufficient information about their loved ones? And when Consular Affairs provide a list of attorneys to U.S. citizen family members or next of kin, does it indicate which ones speak English? If some embassies do list attorneys that speak English, what efforts is the department taking to standardize the practice at all overseas posts? This is a lot of incoming that we get.
Thank you. This is the first that I've heard of that complaint. We do maintain lists of attorneys, and as I mentioned, we work really hard to make sure we're doing everything we can to support detainees overseas, especially to ensure that they're connected with their families. So if I may have our team get back in touch with your team.
Absolutely. I appreciate. I know from
Thank you.
working with your office a lot of the commitment, the people that work there. There are understandable frustrations, and I hope we can just continue to work together.
I appreciate it. If you hear things and we don't know about them, then we can't fix them. So we're grateful.
Okay, and I'll give my thanks to the benevolency of the chairman of this committee.
You know, I was going to say, you made that comment about being tough. You're 2 minutes over your 5 minutes, which has